All right, CEC Cycle 1, Week 23. Here's what we did in my class today. So for timeline, we did timeline bomb. I've showed this before, but I have these laminated little bombs that I tape onto the back of 3 of the timeline cards. So we sit down on the floor, I lay the timeline cards out in a line, we go through the song, look at the cards, and then I let a kid pick which one, and then we sing through the song. When we get to that card, I flip it over, and if it has a bomb, that's kind of like one strike. There's 3 bombs, so the goal is to get to the end of all of our repetitions without getting all 3 bombs. So that's what we did for timeline. For math, I used a song chant thing that I found here on YouTube years ago, but it's like kind of like the an army chant type thing. It goes, I don't know, but I've been told. And then the kids echo that. The distributive law is good to know. And then they echo. I'll link to it in my blog post. And we just chant back and forth. A open parentheses. B plus C close parentheses. Equals AB plus AC. CC Math Week 23. So we just did that. And I would just chant my part. And then they would chant their part. And we did that several times. And then after we'd done that a couple times, we got out my visual cards here and gave each of the kids a couple different pieces. We did the long equation. So this set from Etsy comes with them already like this, with just one side equals the other side. So they're real simple to put together. Or in the same set, you can also get them where it has each component has its own little card. So I handed these out and we talked through the distributive law, and they came up and magneted them to our whiteboard. So we did that I think 2 times, and that was that for math. For history, kind of did my usual. I used Driven by Grace hand motions. So it was 1800s, I think it's like this. Go watch our video to get the signs right. Argentina, you're like playing a guitar, they fought. And then O'Higgins of Chile, it's kind of like this. And then Bolivar of Venezuela, you do a V and wiggle it down like that. They fought to liberate South America from Spain in the early 1800s. They fought. They should do that a bunch. The kids like that song because there's a lot of punching. So we did that with her hand motions, and then of course used my visual cards, handed those to the kids, and they came up and put them in order a couple of times. So that was history. For geography, I've shared with you guys that we have real big maps in our classrooms, and we put it on the floor today. I went ahead and I'd marked them, and then we sat around it because I felt like the spots were kind of small and it was easier for them to see it up close on the floor. So we all got around it, pointed them out, talked about them. Sometimes I let them point to each one, but there were so many this week that I would call one out and have them like find it instead of them pointing to each one individually. Kind of did it as a group. Science, this one I felt like was kind of a hard one this week. I found someone on YouTube that had hand motions for them. I usually use Driven by Grace, but she didn't have any hand motions this week. So I found somebody else, and they did theirs like cumulonimbus like this, cirrus like wispy at the top, stratus was down low. You can't really see my hands, but down low and flat. Cumulus, I just kind of did like fluffy ones right in the middle, and then stratocumulus were like low and lumpy ones. So that's linked to my blog post as well, so you can see her explanation. But that's what we did for hand motions. And then we said it with silly voices. We said it sticking out our tongue, we said it super fast, we said it with disgust, and we said it like royalty. So that's how we did science this week. For English, the linking verb song that I use is to the tune of the Ants Go Marching One by One. And so we just did the same thing we did last week, which was we sang the song and marched around the classroom as we sang it. And then for Latin, we do what we've been doing this whole semester for Latin. We listen to the song and sing along while doing exercises. And this week we did toy soldier kicks, speed skaters, and crunches. So that was it for new grammar. It's pretty simple. For orchestra this week, so I had already, and if you're watching my videos, you know this, but I've already introduced the orchestra instruments to my kids back on week 19. I know what the guide says and what everybody does. Sometimes it's a little bit different. But that's what I did, is I introduced them to the instruments, and then a couple of the weeks we have reviewed like which instruments go in which family. So this was not brand new information for them. We just kind of went a little bit more in depth. So what I did today is this set of cards that I have has one for each instrument family. So I set these up, like we have a big whiteboard, and I set these up on the little ledge, you know, and kind of gave them some space. And so I handed out the cards with the individual instruments to the kids. I think each kid ended up having 4 cards. And so then I had them come up one at a time and pick one of their cards and find the instrument family that it went in and set it in front of it on the floor. And then we went through and everybody went through again. And so everybody got to come put their cards in the correct instrument family. They did great with it. So we did that to review our instrument families. Then I had them sit just like at their tables. We didn't lay down and do dark lights or any of that kind of stuff, but I just had them sit at their tables, and I just pulled up some clips on YouTube of different instruments playing. I didn't show it to them, of course, that's not CC approved, but I just held my phone and played them. And I would play a clip of like a flute or a cello. We actually had someone come visit our campus and play the cello this morning. So I pulled up the piece of music she played, a Bach concerto, I think, on the cello. And so I pulled up that exact piece of music being played on YouTube to see if they realized that it was the same one that we listened to. And they did. So they did great with it. I pulled up some drums, some guitar. We did violin and the fiddle, harp, just a bunch of different ones. And I would first have them guess what family is it. And then I would then ask, do you know what the instrument is? And they did really well. They got a lot more of them than I expected. They did good. There were some that were kind of hard for, but most of them they were able to identify pretty easily. So we did that. I think we maybe did like 10 or so different, just like more common instruments, and even some of the uncommon ones. We did a piccolo just to see if they knew what that which family that went with. So that was fun. And then we just looked briefly again at the visual that shows the orchestra, how it was set up in the Baroque period and the classical period. I forgot to get those out to show you. I showed them back at week 19 or so, I think, but these right here, one is for Baroque, one is for classical. So we looked at those and just kind of compared the differences of which instruments were included, what did the seating look like. We didn't talk about really current orchestra at all, just the ones that went with our time periods. And then finally for orchestra, we worked on the orchestra song. So this one right here, there's a CC specific song. So on our campus on week 24, we get together, the whole campus, all the classes, and each class takes one of the little snippets of music and sings it, and we sing it in a round. So I had the kids, we listened to it twice all the way through, then we stopped and we worked on our part, which our class has the drums. So we sang just that part a couple of times, and then I played it again, I think maybe 2 more times, and had them sing the drums really loud when we got to that part, since that's our part. So worked on that, and that was orchestra for this week. Then finally for review, so last week I asked them to tell me what some of their favorite review games were, and everyone loves Hot Stew. That one has been the most popular game this year. So we played Hot Stew, even though we've already played it a couple times. It's okay, they love it. So I had my little pot, and I had my little baggie of cards that have the stew things, and I asked them a review question. We answer the review question, and then I'll hold up 2 cards to the first person and say, okay, do you want to add apples or sprinkles? And that person gets to pick which one. We add that to our stew, and then we do another CC review question, and then I hold up 2 more cards to the next person and say, okay, do you want lobster or whipped cream? And sometimes they try to make it good, sometimes they make it silly, but they love that little game. So we just did that for review, and that was it. That was the end. So hope that helps. I'll see you back here next week for week 24. Bye, guys.